Open borders and broken cities, it's all a part of the left's great reset, a reordering of society into the liberal world order on one side, us on the other, where borders are non-existent, citizenship meaningless, and where criminal acts like theft are considered reparations. So forget about prisons. Everything will have a government program. This is where we're headed. And the man behind much of it is George Soros, that guy right there, a billionaire philanthropist, by the way, who bet against the British currency, hoping they failed and did. His foundation has donated millions of dollars to organizations dedicated to open border policies here in America, mass migration and amnesty for illegals here. This is a man who frequents Davos, an elitist globalist who fancies himself as what Plato terms a philosopher king, a ruler who builds a just society filled with virtuous and selfless guardians. And you can guarantee Soros believes he's one of them.
To confess, I also harbored some fantasies of becoming an important philosopher. I believed that I had gained insights that set me apart from other people.
Yeah, no, he's Hungarian. Yeah. So what's he doing with our borders? That's the man who's funding left-wing movements worldwide, but here too, a billionaire who believes that the highly enlightened are only morally and intellectually the only people fit to rule our country. And so we're going to go through some of Soros-funded shadow organizations that work alongside the Biden administration to shield illegals from deportation, encourage unfettered mass immigration while pushing for amnesty for tens of millions of illegal invaders. The National Immigration Law Center is one of them. They've received over $3.4 million from Soros's Open Society Foundation between 2016 and 2020. That's an organization centered around cultural change in America and consolidating immigrant power, pushing left-wing immigration policies and a pathway to citizenship for illegals. Guess which way they'll all vote, folks. Another OSF-funded organization is the Immigrant Legal Resource Center. They've received $2.3 million from Soros between 16 and 20, and their whole focus is encouraging immigration, naturalization, and mobilizing immigrants as a newly imported voting bloc, there it is again, voting bloc to radically change the American electorate. Not to mention, they actively work to prevent deportation of illegals. Of course, why lose a potential Democrat voter? And what's worse, they actively encourage probation officers to end their collaboration with immigration enforcement to protect criminal illegal aliens. You can thank the Open Society for that and Soros. And if you're not familiar with the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, well, they've received over $500,000 from Soros's Open Society. This is an organization that called Trump's Title 42 immigration security measure racist. Of course, no surprise there. And here's another one, the National Immigration Forum. They've received over $1 million from OSF between 16 and 20, and they back mass amnesty for illegal immigrants. And they distinguish themselves by being more interested in importing migrants for the benefit of cheap labor for big corporations and Nancy Pelosi. They even have religious officials on their board of directors, which makes sense since we know many illegals seek refuge at places of worship. And the list goes on and on. These are the organizations that are funded by George Soros' Open Society Foundation, and all of them push open border policies. Now, why is Soros so interested in all this? Well, as a globalist, he believes nations should reject national interests, sacrifice sovereignty and citizenship for the global good. Listen to him.
The European Union was a very inspiring idea for people like me. I considered it the embodiment of the idea of an open society, like-minded countries getting together, sacrificing part of their sovereignty for the common good.
The exact opposite of America First. You see, this is a man who despises the concept of American exceptionalism. You're not American, you're a global citizen. And if national sovereignty and citizenship is non-existent, then what's the need for borders? Well, this is what Donald Trump fought to protect, our borders. Because he's right. There's no country if there are no borders.
They're coming in illegally. Drugs are pouring in through the border. We have no country if we have no border. Hillary wants to give amnesty. She wants to have open borders.
Well, that's why globalists like George Soros couldn't stand Donald Trump, because anyone who believes in sovereignty, borders, national identity, and culture, America first, well, he's a racist dictator.
I have described him as an imposter and con man and a would-be dictator.
Yeah, well, I got news for you, Soros. You sound like a con man and an imposter. It's perfectly clear Donald Trump was uncontrollable for them, a bit unpredictable, but most importantly, an outsider who was never a part of their inner circle, and that's the last person the globalists want sitting at the Resolute desk in the White House. They rather have this guy, a lost and confused man who can be easily manipulated, an empty suit who can barely push radical open border policies, barely stand up, that even invites illegals to flood our borders. And of course, they came, and boy, did they come, in massive caravans, pouring into our country, even wearing shirts with prints saying, Biden, please let us in. And he did. And so they came.
Why now?
I think it's the best time.
The best time. Because of the administration?
Because of Joe Biden.
Because of Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, of course you did. Of course you did. There you have it. Those in power declared war on American sovereignty. And so now we have a record 2.2 million migrants who've been apprehended by Border Patrol in this fiscal year alone, with over 500,000 gotaways. Where'd they get away to, folks? Ever think about that? Take a look at this. Just in the combined fiscal years of 21 and 22, over 20,000 illegals have been arrested with criminal records. 20,000. Think about that for a second. Those are the ones we've caught. And under Joe Biden, those CBP arrests with criminal records skyrocketed by 4 times under Biden compared to Trump in 2020. And here's a look at the categories by crime type. This is important. In the last 2 years under Biden, those with assault and battery records are flooding the borders 5 times more than when Trump was in office. 5 times more with assault and battery. Burglary and fraud with records like that, 6 times more often under Biden. And those convicted of murder, 20 times more tried to illegally enter under Biden than Trump was when Trump was president. Criminals understand that the Democrats aren't taking the border seriously. Their chances are getting away and avoiding arrests are better than it's ever been. So they rushed the border. And even then, the justice system in America is so lenient that those who commit crimes are given slaps on the wrist and released back into public. Come for your court date. This is a state of America, a nation undergoing radical transformation. And the Democrats know it, which is why they're pushing for non-citizens to be able to vote, like in our nation's capital, with one council member saying, and I'm quoting, our immigrant neighbors of all statuses participate, contribute, and care about our community and our city. They, like all D.C. residents, deserve a right to have a say in their government. And imagine that. And imagine this. Did you hear this? The D.C. Council on Tuesday voted to allow non-citizen residents the right to vote in local, not federal, but local elections. Non-citizen. The vote by the 13-member council was 12 in favor and 1 was absent. Unbelievable, folks. All right, here we go again. AOC dancing while her city burns.